morning, disciples, and welcome to today's children's sermon. So today, we're going to talk about neighbors. Neighbors are the people who live close by to you. You might have a neighbor who lives next door to you, or you might have a neighbor who lives across the street from you. If you're like me and you live in an apartment, you might have neighbors who live upstairs from you or downstairs from you. The Bible has a couple words to say on how we treat our neighbors. So now it's time for
Bible Stories with M. Today's Bible story is the parable of the Good Samaritan found in the Gospel of Luke. So Jesus was teaching his disciples as he did, and then one of the religious leaders tried to trick him by asking him a hard question. "Oh, Jesus, could you please tell me what I need to do to inherit eternal life?" I'll never get that one right. "Sure, homie, you just need to love God and love your neighbor."
Wait. Why does this sound so familiar? He announced that there are only 2 commandments that you need to follow. Love God and love your neighbor. Oh, that's why. Back to the story.
But the religious leader didn't like all of his neighbors. He had this weird neighbor who was a janitor and kind of acted funny, smelled like cleaning supplies, and he definitely wanted to be nice to that neighbor, which is kind of dumb because janitors are really cool people. But he was stuck in his prejudiced ways, and so he asked Jesus, "Well then, who is my neighbor?" to try and figure out a loophole around the instructions so he didn't have to love his janitor neighbor. So Jesus told him a story to help him get the point. Once there was a man who was traveling from St. Olaf back to his house, and then some dudes robbed him, beat him up, and left him for dead on the side of the road. By coincidence, Pastor Emily was also walking down the road, and when she saw him, she passed by on the other side. By another coincidence, Emily Wickner was also walking down the road, and when she saw him, she passed by on the other side. But then Ron, the janitor, who was also traveling along that same road, saw the man, and he had compassion on him. Ron the janitor dressed his wounds, drove him to the doctor, and took the man to the fanciest hotel in Fort Dodge. He told the manager to take care of the man and that he would pay for anything that the man needed. So which person was a neighbor to the man on the side of the road? I suppose that it was the janitor. That's right. And if a janitor can be a neighbor to the people who don't like him, then you can be a neighbor to the people that you don't like too. The end.
So basically, everybody in the whole world is your neighbor, even the people you don't like all that much. But even if you don't like somebody, Jesus still wants you to love them. So, what are some ways you can love your neighbors? Even the ones you don't like all that much. You can bake a treat for them, or you can write a card for them. You can buy their groceries for them if they're stuck in quarantine for 2 weeks. Or you can invite them to sit over at your lunch table, or you can help them out with a math problem. There are so many creative ways for you guys to love your neighbors. You just have to ask God to help you do it. Posse ciao, my young disciples. I'll see you next week. The Bible has a couple somethings, let me tell you that. Right hat of holiness. Hoping that should be enough footage for my video camera, but my hat of holiness falls off. Then you can be a neighbor to the people you don't like either. But even if you don't like them, Jesus still wants you to love them, be their neighbor. Jesus wants you to be their neighbor. Jesus is Mr. Rogers. Or maybe Mr. Rogers was going off the principles of Jesus.